This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work with another Wolff Responds. I'm going to be relatively short and sweet about this response. I want to speak about a column produced by Ezra Klein, who works at the New York Times, and it's based on a conversation he had, and that is available as a podcast from him, a conversation he had with Paul Krugman. And I want to pick up on two basic ideas. One is contained in the title given by the New York Times, and I assume by Ezra Klein himself. It's called "What's Happening to Our Economy is Like a Natural Disaster." And elsewhere in the subtitle, this whole talk is referred to being focused on the COVID economy or COVID economics. So here's my response. I don't agree. I don't think what we're going through is an economy that is COVID particularly, nor do I think the economic crash we're living through is a natural disaster. In fact, I think the attempt to make it a natural phenomena, to naturalize it, is a none too subtle effort to get away from the social problem. And the social problem is something that appears very rarely in these kinds of discussions by these kinds of folks, namely capitalism. Might it be, I'm going to ask, that what we have here is a breakdown of the capitalist system, and that what the disaster is a capitalist disaster, and that the economics here are the economics of capitalism? So let me make the argument simple. Of course, we have a public health disaster. Now that too could be looked upon as natural. But then we would have a hard time explaining, for example, why so many countries afflicted by this virus, much poorer than the United States, much less equipped with resources, have done such a better job keeping the number of cases and the number of deaths very low. The People's Republic of China has 4 times the population of the United States and a tiny fraction of the number of cases and deaths. Is it really natural? No. It's about capitalism's either ability, if steered by the government, or inability, if privately enterprise dominated, to cope with viruses. They have, after all, been with us a long time. Capitalism either was or wasn't able to be prepared for them. In the United States, it wasn't. The problem wasn't natural, the problem was social and economic. The corporations that could have prepared us could have produced the masks, the ventilators, all the equipment, and stored it appropriately, stockpiling in warehouses near population centers. Those companies that could have done it didn't do it. And that's not because of a natural problem. It's because those companies are governed by the profit motive. And it wasn't profitable to produce all of the equipment needed to cope with a virus, pay for it to be produced, pay for it to be stored, paid for it to be monitored, cleaned, repaired, secure, and so on for an indefinite period of time until the next virus comes. There were more profitable outlets for the investments of these companies, so they went elsewhere and we weren't prepared. That's not nature that's the problem, is it, Professor Krugman? It's the capitalist system's profit-driven decisions that made all that happen. And the complicity of a government that allowed the private sector's incapacity to secure public health nonetheless to be in charge. And they don't even see it now when the horror of the failure of capitalism in the face of a virus is so obvious. And then this COVID economics or COVID economy. Look, I understand that in the desperate effort to defend capitalism from the criticism long overdue, we need to call each of the crashes of capitalism by some name that blames some external force. So the crash of capitalism in the spring of 2000 was the dot-com crash. Blame a few corporations, high prices on the stock market. As if we don't always have somebody getting high prices on the stock market without there being an economic crash associated with it. Or take 2008. We call that the subprime mortgage crisis. How convenient. We find in the mortgages the explanation for the crisis. And now we're going to blame something natural, the COVID virus. These are lame, superficial efforts to get the blame away from the economic system that is a root cause of the suffering we are going through. Am I surprised that the New York Times is interested in deflecting criticism from capitalism? No. Am I surprised that Ezra Klein or Paul Krugman are happy to participate in that process? No. But it is important to point it out so that everyone can think about what an alternative analytic for this crisis might look like. This is Richard Wolff for Democracy at Work, and I appreciate your attention.